Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and the new movie, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and the issue that both of these properties have with distinguishing content for children and distinguishing content for adults. Alright, so basically I saw the movie last night. By the way, spoilers for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark in this. So I saw the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark last night, and it was a terrifying film. It was really, really scary, and there was some stuff in it that was incredibly gross and really frightening, like adult movie film frightening, right? So just give you an example, right? One of the stories. So there's just story after story after story. They fire them off very, very quickly, right? In this movie, basically this dead girl, Sarah Bellows, is writing stories in a journal in the blood of children, right? And whatever she writes just happens, right? And this is a really interesting frame because it allows these scary stories to not really have to make that much sense, and some of them are completely senseless. They're not nonsense, but they're not fully sensible, right? But some of them then are completely connected to the real world and quite sensible, right? So one of them was there's a young man in the movie. His name is a character. His name is Ramon, and Ramon is a draft dodger. This is in the years of Vietnam, and he tells this girl Stella that he's a friend with. He says, I dodged a draft. And the reason why is last week my brother's body actually came home to America, and it came home in pieces, right? And it was really frightening me, so I decided I was going to draft dodge, and I wasn't going to go to Vietnam, right? So then, Sarah Bellows, this malevolent spirit, hears this and then writes a story where the corpse of Ramon's brother actually reassembles and becomes this super fast fighting monster creature, right, that is pursuing Ramon and trying to kill Ramon, right? And it's like this is a corpse that falls apart like Lego pieces, reassembles itself, and will not stop relentlessly hunting its brother to kill him. And it is not it's not a situation. So one, that's pretty darn scary. That seems adult level scary to me, not kid level scary, right? But the reality is, when I was at this film, I'm not kidding, there was an 8-year-old in front of me that was brought with an entire family. And I was like, what the heck? I'm barely, making it through this okay. This is an absolutely terrifying film, and we have an 8-year-old here in the theater. This is nuts, right? And so I think there's this really big confusion today where people are like, oh, kids grow up so fast today. And then they think that, and then they leverage it, right? And so we're marketing right now. There's I think the name of the movie is a movie called Good Boys, which is all about junior high boys, and the movie is rated R. Now, that is incredibly confusing. What is the purpose of making a movie that about a certain age of children, and those children literally cannot see the movie, right? They can't, it's crazy, right? So that's my point. There's a massive confusion, certainly in Hollywood and in America. We are taking children, and because they are growing up fast, because they have the internet and they're seeing things much more quickly, we are in this situation where we're saying, hey, these kids are growing up fast, so we'll just leverage that, and then we're putting things that really are for adults in front of them, and it seems really crazy and not a good idea in the least, right? So, and then in addition to that, you also have this situation where, we are taking I increasingly will hear people who are 24, 25 years old referred to as kids, right? And so in America and in Hollywood, and definitely in America, there's a huge confusion about what content is for kids and what content is adults. Now, how does this impact us in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Well, one, actually, there was a major problem with this in the 1980s. Maybe actually, I think, to tell the truth, I am fully aware of the satanic panic of the 80s, But the reality is, if you look back, right, at the 1E content and the amount of advertising that was being done for younger and younger children, and just some of the illustrations that were in those books, the balance wasn't right. Right? You can push back and say, okay, hey, Dungeons and Dragons was not an evil product, and kids could absolutely enjoy it, and it was okay for kids to be interacting, and I'm talking 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, right? Because that's what the game was written for. Like, and even to this day, on the product, on 5E, it says a 12-year-old can play this, right? Now, but for 1E, if you look at some of the illustrations and you say, hey, yeah, this is perfectly fine for a 12-year-old, come on, like, just go back and look at 1E and you're going to see exactly what I'm saying, right? So the reality is, we had a problem with this in the 80s, and then not only was there the literal problem of, yes, there were some, at minimum, there was some illustration in there that was highly questionable to put in front of a 12-year-old, right? But then the perception was, at minimum, TSR did not do the work that should have been done to say, hey, you're a parent and we're advertising this product to your 12-year-old kid, and then we are going to do the work to assure you that this is a safe product for them, and we're aware of them and we're thinking about them. A lot of that work was not done well by TSR. It just wasn't. It absolutely could have been better, right? So even the perception of the product being, made for children, and D&D is still being made for children today. To me, a 12-year-old is a child, right? Like, so we have this issue where Dungeons & Dragons is for children, but the reality is the vast majority of people who are playing Dungeons & Dragons, in my opinion, clearly now are adults, right? So we had this problem for 1E. I think it was started to get addressed in 2E. 3E, I think we really addressed a lot of material. Even there, though, the more I think about it, like, especially in some of the later books, the source materials, without a doubt, there was some source material that was made, and I'm not even talking about the off-brand stuff. I'm talking under the WotC flag, where 3E was the same boat. Like, I think what happens is Dungeons & Dragons is made accessible to 12-year-olds. Then you get into the source material, and you're 2, 3, 4 years out on your edition, and there are writers and entire groupings who are forgetting that this product, that Dungeons & Dragons, is being made for kids, right? In addition to adults, right? And so the whole point of this is a Kate Welch problem, right? Like, that's my entire point for this video. This is a Kate Welch problem, okay? So 3E definitely had some problems with material in it that, frankly, in my opinion, absolutely should not have been for 12-year-olds. 4E was probably one of the best when it came to balancing this. And 5E, I think, has done a great job with it. I don't think 5E has really forgotten at any point that this game is being played by 12-year-olds, right? And that's great. I think that's really good. Now, what do we do for 6E, right? So the problem is not that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have forgotten that 12-year-olds are playing. The problem is our world is changing so fast, right? So the reality is, I'm not kidding. Kate Welch has got to go see scary stories to tell in the dark. And the reason why is the perception of what is acceptable for 12-year-olds, for children, right, has massively changed, right? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a full-on horror movie. This isn't like, there's a dude who puts the toe of a corpse in his mouth in this film. It is disgusting, right? And really frightening and disturbing, right? And, like, I will tell you right now, I really think that 8-year-old in front of me, that's going to be therapy. No two ways about it, right? Like, that kid is definitely going to be in therapy, in my opinion, right? But I really think Kate Welch needs to see what our current society is thinking is acceptable for 12-year-olds. And then understanding where the line has been drawn by our society is going to very carefully have to decide and say, okay, I see where you're coming at from this, and now I'm going to decide how to make this balance. How do we balance Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition? It is my opinion that Kate Welch is going to be the design lead for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. It is also my opinion that work has already started now and is in secret. Pathfinder 2 ran build time in secret for 2 years before it was even announced for playtest. Right? That's a lot. That's a lot of time, right? All right, so Kate Welch is going to and so the key here, right? I'm not actually going to take the time to say she should do this, she should do that, she should do this, right? The most important aspect that needs to happen right now for 6th edition, that's absolutely critical that this happens for 6th edition, is more than anything else, Kate Welch has got to get the team, and when the work is starting, or even now, right? They need to say, we need to make this game great. And we have a whole host of checkboxes that we're going to need to check with 6th edition, right? But one of them is this has got to be safe for children, right? For 12-year-olds, for 12-year-old Americans. And that's a big deal, right? It's not going to be easy. And so how do you make something so it's accessible and appropriate for 12-year-old kids, and then also compelling to 72-year-old people? Because that's about it. I think that's about as old as you're going to get as playing D&D. Maybe a little beyond that, but if you do 12 to 72, you're fine. And it's going to be incredibly hard, but I'm confident that Kate Welch can do it, and I think it's really important that when work on 6E begins, it cannot be forgotten that this product is being built for children and built for adults, and it's going to be a hard landing to stick. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Please let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.